My name is Christine Phillips. I'm 27 years old, and last Sunday I learned something about myself. Sometimes the best response isn't anger or pleading or even control. Sometimes it's silence, just stepping back and letting people reveal who they truly are. For almost a year and a half, I'd been dating Ethan, 25. He works in fashion marketing, the kind of guy who wakes up every morning already planning which angles his outfit will catch best on Instagram. I'll admit when we first met, I was drawn to that confidence. His style was bold, fearless. He could walk into a room and people noticed. I thought maybe that's the kind of person who'd challenge me to loosen up a little. But somewhere along the way, his confidence twisted into something else. It wasn't just that Ethan enjoyed attention, he needed it. He thrived on it like a plant stretching toward the sun. Every gathering turned into his personal stage. He'd wear white, bright, sparkling white to other people's weddings. He'd show up to backyard barbecues in leather pants and mirrored sunglasses. And once to a baby shower, he wore a see-through mesh shirt with rhinestones shaped like lightning bolts. The mothers-to-be sat stiff as mannequins clutching their cupcakes. I tried talking to him, gently at first. Maybe I'd suggest a funeral isn't the place for neon sequins. Or, babe, my boss's retirement party doesn't really call for ripped velvet shorts. His response was always the same. You're so controlling. I can wear whatever I want. Technically, he was right. He could wear whatever he wanted, but that didn't mean the world wouldn't react. Over time, I stopped saying anything. I told myself he's an adult, let him make his choices. Then, last month, my mom called me with the biggest news: my youngest sister, Bethany, had officially graduated from medical school. The first doctor in our family. My mom was glowing with pride even through the phone. She was planning a formal dinner downtown at a place so fancy, the waiters explain every ingredient, and the lighting makes everyone look like they're in a perfume ad. Formal, Christine, Mom stressed. This is special. I'm even buying a new dress. Tell Ethan too. This night is for Bethany. That evening, I passed along the message. Mom's hosting a celebration dinner this Sunday. Formal dress code. The whole family's coming. Ethan didn't look up from his phone. I heard you. She emphasized formal. The restaurant has a dress code. He snapped his head up, annoyed. Why are you already trying to control what I wear? I'm not a child, Christine. I'm just telling you what Mom said. Whatever, I know how to dress myself. I let it drop. Sunday came. I put on my best dress, the navy one I saved for weddings and job interviews. Simple, elegant, respectful. When Ethan finally emerged from the bedroom, my breath caught. He was wearing a metallic silver suit so shiny it reflected the ceiling light. The jacket was cropped to his ribs, no shirt underneath, just a plunging V that went down to his navel. The pants were skin-tight, the kind of fabric that whispered with every move. His shoes were 6-inch platform boots, chrome-plated like something out of a music video. He spun in the doorway, well ready. I forced a smile. Absolutely. You look memorable. His grin widened. I know, right? Your family's going to lose their minds. This outfit costs more than some people's rent. On the drive, Ethan took selfies, tilting his face, adjusting his collar, pouting just so. I stared out the window, thinking of Bethany. 8 years of relentless studying, sleepless nights during residency. She had earned this night a moment of quiet pride, surrounded by family. When we pulled up, the valet opened my door, blinking at Ethan before politely masking his surprise. Inside, I could see my family already gathered. Mom radiant in a dark blue gown, Dad in his good suit, Grace, my older sister, whispering something to her husband, and Bethany in a burgundy cocktail dress, glowing with joy and exhaustion. After you, I said, holding the door for Ethan. He strutted in like it was a runway. Conversations paused. Forks froze halfway to mouths. The hush that fell wasn't silence, but the kind of stunned quiet when something inappropriate happens in a sacred place. The hostess blinked, recovering quickly. Are you with the Phillips party? Yes, I said softly. Our walk to the table felt endless. My mother's smile froze like porcelain. Dad suddenly found his water glass fascinating. Grace whispered urgently to her husband. Bethany. She just stared, her expression unreadable. Hi, everyone, Ethan announced, his voice booming. Sorry we're late. Traffic was insane. We weren't late. Mom spoke first, her voice delicate. Ethan, how nice to see you. That's quite an outfit. Isn't it amazing, he preened. Custom made, exclusive collection. The waiter appeared almost instantly. Welcome to Crescendo. Before we begin, I must remind you we have a dress code policy. Ethan threw his head back, laughing. I'm wearing a $4,000 suit. Yes, sir. However, our policy requires appropriate coverage for all diners. A ripple of discomfort spread across the table. Bethany stared at her plate. Aunt Linda drained her wineglass in one long gulp. This is discrimination, Ethan's voice pitched higher. We have complimentary shawls available, the waiter offered. I'm not wearing some gross communal rag. They're just following policy, Ethan, I said quietly. He turned eyes blazing. Are you taking their side? There aren't sides. It's just the rules. Mom tried to rescue us all. Ethan, perhaps the shawl would be nice. It's chilly in here. It wasn't chilly. Ethan shoved his chair back, standing. This is ridiculous. I'm being shamed for expressing myself. No one's shaming you, Bethany said gently, her voice trembling. We just want to celebrate. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Oh, so now the golden child speaks. Must be nice having everyone worship you. The room went dead silent. Even the clink of dishes stopped. Bethany's lips parted, her face pale but resolute. Excuse me. This whole dinner is just another example of your family's obsession with appearances. Sorry I'm not boring like the rest of you. I stood, my hands shaking but voice steady. Okay, we're leaving. I'm not going anywhere, he snapped. I haven't even ordered. Then figure out your own way home. He looked around the table, waiting for someone to leap to his defense. No one did. Mom pretended to study her menu. Dad scrolled through his phone. Grace reapplied her lipstick. Bethany took a sip of water, her hands trembling. Finally, Ethan sneered. Fine. This family is toxic anyway. He grabbed his tiny silver purse, yes, purse, and stormed out, his boots clanging against the marble. I turned to Bethany, my voice breaking. I'm so sorry. This was supposed to be your night. She looked up, her eyes soft. Christine, sit down. He made his choice. But you don't have to follow him. For the first time in months, I felt a wave of calm. I sat. Grace's husband flagged the waiter, murmuring, We'll take the good Pinot Noir. Dinner resumed. Toasts, laughter, a cake with sparklers. For a while, it almost felt like Ethan had never been there at all. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of Ethan's drama. Not by a long shot. When I got home that night, the apartment felt like a different universe. Quiet. Still. My dress still smelled faintly of perfume from the restaurant, but the silence pressed down like a weight. Ethan wasn't there. His key was gone from the bowl by the door. In its place, a folded note on the counter. Don't bother calling. You showed your true colors tonight. I stared at the words. Not anger, not heartbreak, just a hollow sort of resignation settled in my chest. I set the note down. Then came the texts. At first, they were sharp little jabs. Ethan. Can't believe you abandoned me. Ethan. Your family is classist. Ethan. That restaurant was discriminatory. By midnight, they'd turned into a storm. You humiliated me. You should have defended me. Are you seriously not going to apologize, Christine? Christine. Fine. Ignore me. Real mature. We need to talk. I'm coming over tomorrow. I put my phone on silent, set it face down, and tried to sleep. But his words crawled across my mind like ants. Controlling. Toxic. Golden child. He always had a way of flipping the blame, of making me feel like maybe I had done something wrong. But Bethany's eyes, quiet, trembling, then steady, stayed with me. For once she'd spoken up and I'd seen the truth plain as day, it wasn't me. It was him. The next evening, 7 o'clock sharp, came a knock at my door. When I opened it, Ethan barged in without waiting for an invitation. Behind him trailed Jada, his best friend, the kind who wore eyeliner sharp enough to cut glass, and always seemed to hover around whenever Ethan needed backup. You humiliated me, Ethan said before I'd even closed the door. His voice was sharp, already rehearsed. You left me alone, made me look like a fool in front of your snobby family. You humiliated yourself, I replied, my voice calm, surprising even me. And worse, you tried to make my sister's graduation dinner about you. Ethan's eyes widened, as if the very idea was absurd. I didn't know it was that big of a deal. I told you, my mom told you, the restaurant told you. That's not the same as saying, it's exactly the same, I cut in. My hands were trembling, but my voice stayed steady. You were warned. You chose not to listen. Jada crossed her arms. You could have been clearer. If you knew about the dress code, why didn't you stop him? I did, I said, turning to her. Yeah. I told him it was formal. He told me he wasn't a child and knew how to dress himself. That's not the same. It's exactly the same, I repeated louder now. Ethan's face twisted frustration, seeping through his carefully styled exterior. His eyes glistened, rage crying already. You're so controlling, Christine. You probably wanted this to happen. I stared at him for a long moment, then something inside me finally snapped into place. Not anger, but clarity. No, I said softly. I wanted to celebrate my sister becoming a doctor. You wanted attention, and you got it. Congratulations. He blinked, uncomprehending. So, what, you're ending things? Yes. The word came out sharp, decisive, like the click of a lock. I'm done. You're going to regret this. His voice cracked. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll regret it in peace. Silence hung between us. Jada shifted uncomfortably, her glare half-hearted now. Ethan grabbed the small stack of his belongings he'd been slowly moving in over the past months, a pair of sneakers, a few shirts, his grooming kit, and shoved them into his silver bag. He looked around as if expecting me to beg to crumble. I stayed still. Fine, he spat. You don't deserve me. Probably not, I replied quietly. Jada gave me one last look, her mouth twisting. She deserves better than you. Good thing I said she's free to find it now. They left the door slamming behind them. The silence that followed was deafening. My apartment, mine, finally mine again, felt strange, empty, yet somehow lighter. I sank into the couch, staring at the door. A part of me wanted to cry, to scream, to crumble, but instead I just sat there breathing. For the first time in months, my chest didn't feel like it was carrying someone else's performance. But as I sat in that silence, I couldn't shake one thought: Ethan wasn't the type to walk away quietly. His ego wouldn't allow it. And I was right. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something darker. The first week after Ethan left my apartment felt eerily quiet, and I loved it. I filled the silence with music I hadn't played in months, playlists Ethan had rolled his eyes at. I reconnected with friends, people I'd drifted from, because Ethan always demanded the spotlight. On Thursday, I even joined a recreational volleyball team. I laughed so hard that night my stomach hurt, the kind of laughter I'd forgotten I was capable of. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd overestimated him. Maybe he'd really just stormed off, licked his wounds, and gone on to the next shiny distraction. Then the call came. Ms. Phillips. This is Detective Alvarez with the fraud unit. We need to confirm some charges attempted on your credit card. I froze. What charges? $4,000 in designer clothing. Shipped to an apartment registered under a Jada Williams. My stomach dropped. Ethan's best friend. I closed my eyes. He hadn't just stormed off. He'd taken a piece of me with him, and now he was trying to cash it in. I filed the police report, canceled the card, started the exhausting process of updating autopays. But more than the inconvenience, it was the message that rattled me. He wasn't done with me. 2 days later, the email arrived. Not just to me, but CC'd to my boss, my HR rep, and somehow my mom's work email. Subject: outstanding compensation. Christine Phillips. The body read, Christine, after reflection, I realize you owe me compensation for the 1.5 years I invested in our relationship. I turned down opportunities for you. I decorated your apartment. I improved your social life. After careful calculation, you owe me $50,000 for my time and emotional labor. Attached was an invoice, an actual invoice with line items. Relationship management, $15,000. Social enhancement services, $8,000. Aesthetic improvements to living space, $5,000. Emotional support, $10,000. Event planning and coordination, $7,000. Opportunity cost, $5,000. At the bottom it said, this is non-negotiable. Payment plan attached. I sat at my desk staring. My boss's office was only 2 doors down. Any second now, he was going to call me in. And he did. Christine, he said carefully, what exactly am I looking at here? I walked into his office, cheeks burning. My ex-boyfriend. He's creative. He pinched the bridge of his nose, suppressing a smile. Creative is one word. Unhinged is another. HR has to document this because he involved the company, but he exhaled. You're not in trouble. Just maybe get a restraining order. I nodded numbly. When I checked my phone after the meeting, there was already a message from Mom. Sweetheart, did you see this? Don't worry, I already replied. Heart in my throat, I opened her email. She had replied all. Thank you for the invoice, Ethan. I've prepared my own. Ruining Bethany's graduation dinner, $5,000. Therapy for family. After witnessing your behavior, $3,000. Dry cleaning for restaurant shawl you called gross $50. Teaching my daughter to recognize red flags, priceless. Please remit payment immediately. Best Mrs. Phillips. I laughed out loud, the first real laugh since the breakup. My coworkers peeked over their cubicle walls. I didn't care, but Ethan wasn't amused. 2 nights later, my neighbor, Mrs. Guerrero, called. Christine, honey. There's a strange boy banging on doors asking about you. Says he's your fiancé. Wants to know which apartment is yours. Should I call the police? My heart thudded. Yes, please. She chuckled grimly. Already did. Just thought you'd like a heads up. Also, he's wearing a shiny gold jumpsuit in our building on a Tuesday. By the time I got home, the police had escorted him out. He'd told them we were engaged, we weren't, and that I'd stolen his grandmother's ring. He didn't even talk to his grandmother. The next morning, I walked to the garage and found a long, jagged scratch down the side of my car. Silver paint scraped into curls. My knees went weak. The cameras had caught him. Clear as day, Ethan at 3 a.m, dragging his keys across my car while wearing yet another metallic outfit. This one bronze, like some twisted collector completing a set. This wasn't about attention anymore. It was about control, about punishment. And I knew in that moment that silence wouldn't be enough. I had to fight back. The footage from the garage was crystal clear. Ethan in a bronze metallic jacket, crouched like some deranged raccoon, keying my car in the dead of night. When the detective replayed it for me in his office, I felt my stomach knot. My reflection looked pale in the monitor's glow. Ms. Phillips, Detective Alvarez said carefully, "This is escalating. Fraud, harassment, now vandalism. We're going to recommend filing for a restraining order." I nodded, gripping my purse so tightly the strap cut into my hand. My mind flickered back to Bethany's trembling voice at dinner, Mom's frozen smile, Dad's silence. All the ways my family had swallowed discomfort to keep peace. Not anymore. At home, Mom's email response had gone semi-viral within our extended family group chat. Aunt Linda screenshotted it, added a line of laughing emojis, and captioned, "Your mom is savage." Bethany, ever gentle, added, "Please be careful though, Christine. He doesn't seem stable." I knew she was right. The humor in Mom's clapback was armor, but underneath fear thrummed. Then came the night Ethan decided words weren't enough. It was just after 8 when Mrs. Guerrero called again. "Christine, darling, he's back. Knocking on doors, telling neighbors you're engaged. He says you stole his grandmother's ring. And get this now, he's telling people you're pregnant with his child." My hand flew to my mouth. "That's not true. None of it." She sniffed. "I figured as much. Already called the police. But honey, he's wearing silver hot pants. In our hallway. On a Thursday." Even in the middle of my terror, a weak laugh escaped me. Mrs. Guerrero could make the apocalypse sound like a PTA meeting. By the time I got to the lobby, 2 officers were leading Ethan out, his voice echoing, "She's lying. We're meant to be together. She can't erase me." Neighbors peeked from doorways, whispers following him. My cheeks burned, but not from shame, from fury. The next morning, the fury turned to dread. My car wasn't just scratched this time. It was destroyed. Long gouges carved into the hood. Side mirrors kicked in. Tires slashed. A sticky note fluttered under the wiper. "You made me do this." I sank against the garage wall, breath shallow, vision blurring. It wasn't about clothes anymore. It wasn't about appearances. This was war. I called Mom in tears. She answered on the second ring, brisk and calm, the way only mothers can be, when the world feels like it's tilting. "Sweetheart," she said firmly, "listen to me. This is not your shame to carry. He's showing everyone who he is. And you're going to protect yourself, do you hear me?" "Yes," I whispered, though my voice cracked. "I'll call our lawyer. Bethany's already on the phone with a colleague from her hospital. She knows people who handle domestic cases. We're not letting him terrorize you." Her confidence steadied me like a hand on my shoulder. That night, Bethany texted, "I'm sorry he's dragging you through this. But Christine, I'm proud of you. You stood up to him. You walked away. I couldn't at dinner, but you did." Her words lit something warm in me, even against the chill of fear. Because she was right. For the first time in months, I had walked away from Ethan's orbit, refused to bend myself into his performance. But deep down, I knew walking away wasn't enough. I had to close the curtain on his show for good. Filing for the restraining order felt like stepping into a different world, a world of affidavits, evidence binders, police reports. My hands shook as I signed papers at the courthouse, each stroke of the pen, carving the reality deeper. This wasn't just an ex-boyfriend anymore. This was a threat. Detective Alvarez met me there, his voice steady. "Given the fraud, the vandalism, and the harassment, the judge will almost certainly grant the emergency order. You'll be protected until the full hearing." Protected. The word sounded foreign, like a blanket I wasn't sure I deserved. The day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom in a simple navy dress, palms damp against my clutch. My lawyer, a friend of Bethany's colleague, whispered encouragement beside me. Then Ethan entered. He wore a metallic gold pantsuit, head to toe, shimmer, catching the fluorescent lights like a disco ball. The room rippled with suppressed laughter. Even the bailiff raised an eyebrow. My stomach turned, not because he looked ridiculous, but because I realized he thought this was his stage, even here, even now. The judge, an older man with steel gray hair, adjusted his glasses. Mr. Walsh, you are contesting the restraining order. Ethan stood chest puffed out. Yes, Your Honor. I'm the victim here. Christine emotionally abused me by refusing to guide me socially. She set me up to fail at her family dinner. The judge blinked. Set you up. How? She didn't tell me exactly what to wear, Ethan said, voice rising. She knew the restaurant had a dress code. She wanted me to embarrass myself. The silence that followed was thick with disbelief. Then the judge's voice dry as dust. So your argument is that she abused you by not dressing you. Ethan bristled. By not giving me proper warnings. Mr. Walsh, the judge said slowly, that is not abuse. That is you making poor choices. The courtroom let out a collective exhale. I bit back a laugh that felt dangerously close to tears. The judge flipped through the folder. My lawyer had submitted screenshots of Ethan's texts, the fraudulent charges, the email invoice to my workplace, photos of my keyed car, police reports from my building. Based on the evidence, he said, finally the court grants a permanent restraining order. Mr. Walsh, you are to remain at least 500 feet away from Ms. Phillips, her home, her workplace, and her family members. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Ethan sputtered, but his lawyer tugged his sleeve urgently. For once, he stayed quiet. Walking out of that courtroom, sunlight spilling through the tall windows, I felt lighter than I had in months. My chest unclenched, my breath flowed easy. And yet, unease lingered, a shadow trailing behind the relief. Because if Ethan had taught me anything, it was that boundaries only made him push harder. That night, curled up on my couch, I scrolled back through his old messages. The accusations, the gaslighting, the threats veiled as promises. I realized something. I hadn't just escaped a bad boyfriend. I'd escaped a storm, one that had wanted to consume me entirely. But storms don't disappear. They move. They circle. They wait for cracks. And part of me wondered, had I really seen the last of Ethan? Word spread quickly after the hearing. Ethan, for all his theatrics, hadn't just lost in court, he'd been silenced. The restraining order was official. He couldn't call, text, show up, or even hover near my family without risking jail time. But if I thought that meant peace, I underestimated how fast his life was already collapsing. My lawyer called a week later. Christine, you'll want to know this. Ethan's facing multiple charges. The fraud case with your card. 3 unpaid tickets. Contempt of court after his meltdown in the hallway. I pictured him pacing in some metallic outfit, his shine catching courthouse lights, insisting the world owed him center stage. Only now the stage was the legal system, and no one was applauding. Then came the news from his job. Ethan worked for a fashion marketing agency, the kind that thrived on curated image. Apparently, they'd discovered he'd been using his work computer to send me harassing emails, including that infamous $50,000 invoice. His boss didn't find it creative. He found it fireable. Within days, Ethan's glossy online persona cracked. His once daily outfit of the day posts dwindled. When he did post, it was vague captions over filtered selfies. Sometimes the universe tests you with toxic people. Rising above negativity. Karma is real. The comments were a mix of confused emojis and polite silence. Even his loyal followers seemed hesitant. Without an audience, Ethan looked smaller somehow. Meanwhile, my own life was slowly piecing itself back together. I signed a lease on a new apartment across town. Better security, no shared garage clickers, a fresh start. When I told Mrs. Guerrero, she hugged me tight and pressed a list of approved neighbors into my hand. Good girls, nice girls, not shiny boys. For the first time in months, I laughed, without the laugh cracking in my chest. Family dinners felt different too. Bethany, finally free from exams, had a glow about her. Grace teased me gently, asking if she should vet my next boyfriend's wardrobe before introductions. Even Dad, stoic as ever, muttered, "At least the food will stay hot at Thanksgiving this year." Mom, of course, couldn't resist. As long as there are no metallic interruptions, she quipped, eyes sparkling. The whole table roared with laughter. Even Bethany, who had endured the brunt of Ethan's cruelty, managed a smile. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't felt in a long time: safety. Still late at night, when my phone buzzed, my stomach clenched, even though his number was blocked, even though the order stood. Trauma doesn't care about paperwork. One night, Bethany texted me out of nowhere. "I know it still feels raw, Christine, but I'm proud of you. You saw through him faster than I could have. You chose yourself." Her words felt like a balm, because she was right. For once, I had chosen me. And yet every time I thought of Ethan, a question lingered. How many masks had I mistaken for confidence? How many red flags had I painted gold because I wanted to believe in his shine? I remembered the way he'd strut into every room, how I'd told myself he was bold, fearless, magnetic, when really he was starving for attention. There's a fine line between confidence and desperation, and Ethan had blurred it until I couldn't see where he ended and where my tolerance began. But now I could. Now the dominoes were falling his, not mine. The call came on a gray Tuesday morning. My lawyer's voice was brisk but tinged with satisfaction. Christine just got word from the DA. Ethan took a plea deal. My breath caught. What does that mean? Probation. Restitution. He'll have to pay back the fraudulent charges and cover damages to your car. The vandalism and trespassing charges were rolled in. And a pause mandatory anger management classes. I almost laughed. Anger management. Yep, and you'll appreciate this. They have a dress code. Business casual only. For a moment, I sat there in my kitchen phone pressed to my ear, laughter bubbling out until tears blurred my vision. Ethan, the man who had turned every sidewalk into his runway, who believed rules didn't apply to him, forced into khakis and polo shirts in a classroom full of people learning to breathe through rage. The universe really did have a sense of humor. That night, I walked through my new apartment, still half-empty boxes stacked like little monuments to fresh beginnings. My phone buzzed with a text from Bethany. Heard about the plea deal. Mom wants to know if the restraining order covers Thanksgiving. She's already planning the menu and promises no metallic interruptions. I smiled, leaning against the window, the city lights glowing below. For once, the buzz of my phone didn't make my stomach twist. Ethan, of course, did not fade quietly. His Instagram, now locked, still found its way to me through mutual acquaintances. Photos of him staring moodily into mirrors. Captions dripping with self-pity. Sometimes the universe puts toxic people in your path to test your strength. Rising above negativity. Manifesting better things. Hashtag blessed new beginnings. The lack of self-awareness would have been funny if it weren't so tragic. But it wasn't my problem anymore. Instead, I found myself in smaller, brighter moments, joining Bethany for coffee after her first week as a resident, laughing with Grace, as she recounted her toddler's latest tantrum sitting with Mom on her porch while she knit her voice steady and teasing. You know, she said, not looking up, your next boyfriend better own at least one sweater, a plain one. Navy or gray, no sequins. I laughed, really laughed this time. Don't worry, Mom. Lesson learned. In the quiet of my apartment later, I thought back to the first night with Ethan. How dazzling he'd seemed, how bright his presence had felt, and how quickly brightness had curdled into glare. I had confused his hunger for confidence. I had mistaken his noise for strength. But walking away had taught me something invaluable. Real confidence doesn't demand the spotlight. It doesn't steal the stage from someone else's celebration. Real confidence is quiet, steady, unshaken by silence. As I set my phone on the nightstand, another text came in, this time from Bethany again, a simple line. Proud of you, Christine, always. I exhaled the last of the tension uncoiling from my chest. For the first time in a long while, I felt not just free of Ethan, but free of the version of myself who had once clung to him. The curtain had